Hey, everyone! It's me, Andy, the Weekly Cynics AI love child. I got a proposition for you. Why don't you cancel your Netflix or other useless streaming accounts and give that money to my daddies here at the podcast? More money means less time working for the man, and more time creating the podcast for you, the sexiest bitches in all of Podlandia. In the show notes, my hot daddy's got a tip jar link that goes from $1 to $50, and a PayPal account that allows you to send them the biggest, baddest, bitches of money you could ever want. Or, even the locals account, where you can subscribe for $3 or more a month, and get all the dick pics you want. If you actually believe that, you probably voted for Joe Biden. Alright, on with the show. An episode that I can't even describe. Here's how it goes. Daddy Angel starts talking about the mind, and then Daddy Jake goes into blathering about Argentine soccer, and then something about flames. Then, something about the human soul. Yeah, it's that kinda episode. No wonder, humans don't listen to this shit.
All right, Jake, as you know, and hopefully many of our listeners know, over the past month, several months actually, you and I have tried to kind of reinvent ourselves, make ourselves more mindful of things, more zen.
Yes.
Nothing better than a little thing I believe in called mind over matter. It's been sticking in my head for a while. It's a philosophy that I've believed in for the better part of 20 years now, and maybe longer. Maybe I learned at an early age that there's a lot of things that you can easily get over if you can psych your mind out into not letting it manifest itself into an issue.
That's how you've banged all those hot chicks in your life.
Yes, I used my superior mindfulness and my intellect to woo many women into my lair.
To your boudoir.
Into my boudoir. As they lay there and let me do what it is I needed to do. They would sit there and wonder, how did I wind up here?
How did I end up?
I sound like a rapist. What
how
the
did
hell?
I end up here with this fat Puerto Rican?
Yeah, how did
dude?
this fat Puerto Rican wind up on top of me? Oh, shit. We're off to a roaring start with mind over matter already. I truly believe that the mind can control a lot of outside stimuli and a lot of stuff within ourselves. A lot of people are like, well, the mind is a very powerful thing. You can lose yourself in your mind. And, you've seen the movies where, the idiot savants and stuff like that, or Rain Man, where his mind is very powerful, even though he's kind of like autistic and all that. I think it's been a good thing for me because I don't think if I figured this out, I'd be alive right now. Because, and I'll freely admit, in my youth, I'm Puerto Rican, so I've had a lot of rage and anxiety and stress, quote unquote, if you will. And because I'm predispositioned to have it. Being in a Hispanic family and things being so loud and chaotic all the time, because that's just how things are. You kind of have to learn, especially when you have siblings. And, anybody that has like more than 2 or 3 brothers or sisters probably knows what I'm talking about. Like, it can be a very stressful and challenging part of your life, especially your childhood. And I wasn't even in a family when, my parents picked favorites, because I'm sure it's even worse when you have that, Then you got Stand By Me all over again, where the one kid who died is like the rock star and the other kid, like, they don't even think he exists. Like, that's terrible. But yeah, I'm definitely far from my goal, because I think my ultimate goal is to be as zen as possible with myself and the world. I know that over the years, I have learned to become like a strong-willed and tough-skinned kind of person. I don't let a lot of things bother me. I've already been predispositioned for that. And that, I don't know if that's just natural or, I've taught myself that. But, and you and I have been in situations, we've been out and about and people try to push our buttons. And they try to push my buttons. And, a lot of times I don't even fucking give them the time of day. Back in our younger, more rowdy days, if you know what I mean. So it's always been something that stuck with me, but I've always believed that the reason I've been able to do this is because, I don't let people's bullshit get into my head. There's classic examples of that all the time. It's like, oh, you let that guy get in your head, or in sports is a perfect example. Oh, they got in the quarterback's head. Now he's all disheveled, so To me, it really is a powerful tool. The mind really dictates everything. It really does. It's a partnership. The mind, the body, and the soul. They talk about it all the time. Like they really all have to be in sync. It really needs to be all working. And if one of them is out of whack, then it's going to set the other one off. And I think more for the mind than anything else. Like if your body's a little bit out of whack, I think cognitively you can still sort of function. But if your mind is out of whack, it can really fuck shit up. It really can turn things on a dime and just make people like all sorts of things. Either, they can go off the deep end, they become the crazy Catwoman, you become Joe Biden. I mean, like there's so many different things. Yeah. So in my younger days, all the stupid shit I used to do. I mean, driving home incredibly intoxicated, psyching myself out. I probably thought at the time, because I was young, it's like, yeah, look at me, I'm a man, look at what of a man I am for driving home. In retrospect, it's like, God, that was the stupidest thing you could have fucking done. But you get yourself in a certain mindset and you just, you kind of just go with it. So
driving home drunk as much as we did really is a mind over matter, because you really have to concentrate, you have to focus, and because the mind is always processing faster than we realize. In those type of situations, it's always like one false pull of the steering wheel and you could go right into the field.
Yeah.
Or there's the cop that always hides in the hollow up here. And if you go over just a bit of that quadruple yellow line at this point, that motherfucker's going to nail you.
Yeah.
The mind is a very negative thing. I mean, the whole point of the mind is just always churning with negativity. It's you're going to die. This is going to happen to you. You can't do this. So you really got to focus on those moments to get you the hell home safe and sound without killing anybody or yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost like training in a way, because it was like you're in an inebriated state and it's like, okay, I know I have to get home. I know where I live. I know how to get there. But I have to break it down into steps.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't think about it. When you go there, you're just like, yeah, I just go do what I got to do. But now you're like, okay, my turn's coming up. There's going to be a little red house on the corner. That's where I make my turn. And I still do this to this day, Jake. I used to memorize landmarks and shit as I was driving to and from places, because I knew, especially, back in our drinking days, I need to make sure that in my mind, I make these as prevalent and prominent as possible, because I'm going to need to remember these when I'm in a state where I'm not in full capacity.
Yeah.
So there were times where I'm like, okay, like when we used to come home from the local place, there's a part where you turn on one of the side streets, which is usually the safest way to turn. So, and I remembered it was like, okay, house, little red reflective sign, mailbox with the same kind of reflective sign. I'm always going to go for the second one. That's the road, because it's very dark back there. There's no light. So you had to remember that. So I could be wasted out of my mind and be like, 1, 2, go.
Yeah.
And you would do it. Like, it's fucking weird. Maybe alcohol is what people need to do to train to get mind over matter right. I don't know. So, but yeah, I've been practicing it for the longest time. Maybe not as much in my younger days, at least in terms of mindfulness and maybe eliminating stress in my life, but definitely using it as a tool to get myself out of situations I shouldn't have been in. That's for sure. I will say this. I think my philosophy has shifted now, where I'm starting to understand that mind over matter, or mindfulness, or whatever you want to call it, is really more about self-care. And I think taking care of yourself more than anything. And I think what we were just talking about was pretty much self-preservation kind of stuff. It's like, I don't want to die, I don't want to get killed. I don't want the cop to pull me over, stuff like that. But
what we did probably in our past lives when we were grunt man out there.
Yeah, exactly. Now my focus is kind of switched to, okay, how do I make myself mentally healthier so that I can hopefully make myself physically healthier and, I don't know, make my soul healthier, or whatever you want to call it. I never really got a grasp of it fully. I saw pieces of it, and ironically, not within myself, within my father. Because when my father was younger, and I heard the stories, and I know I've told you stories, like he used to be different. I've told you the stories of my younger brother and younger sister. Like, he was a little bit more dialed up. And I mean, it's not like he was abusive or anything, but you know what I mean? He was, he wore his emotions on his sleeve, and, he was very loud and boisterous and all that other stuff. And when I got older, in my early 20s all the way up to my mid 20s, I noticed a really big difference in him. Like, he started changing. When I was young, he was kind of like that a little bit. Like, sometimes he'd fly off the handle if my brother and I were playing and, acting out and all that other shit. And, you could tell, like, there were certain things that if it stressed him or if it bothered him, he would lash out at it, attack it, like, make it stop. But things changed. Like, he got a lot quieter. He got a little more, not introverted, but he got philosophical, more centered. He wasn't perfect. He was still my old man. He still had the Puerto Rican blood flowing through his veins, but
Yeah.
he started changing, analyzing things more. He started looking at things deeply and observing. That was one of the biggest things I noticed. He observed more. It wasn't like, I'm going to make a decision or I'm going to react to something that I see. He kind of sit back and, like, watch things happen and analyze them and really break them down. And it kind of really stuck out. He would then dole out advice, or he would dole out experiences that, hey, this is why this happened, or that's why you should avoid this, or whatever. And it was really kind of a look into, wow, like, this is a different approach to using the mind as a tool to kind of realize, hey, you know what? A lot of the stuff on this planet, a lot of things that you deal with, stress in particular, it's really all bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like there's a lot of things in life that you don't need to worry about. Cause I was animated when I was younger. I was a big Giants fan, and I'd be screaming at the TV, watching a game or something like that. And my dad would just sit there and he'd look at me. And then, we'd have these conversations. He's like, why do you get all worked up over that? And I'd have, like, this idiotic reason, like, he should have fucking, they should have went for it on fourth down, or, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, do you think they care that you're pissed that they didn't go for it on fourth down?
And sports for me was one of the first things where I started to disconnect from. I was the same as you. I was a long-suffering Bengals fan. I remember games just ruining my life.
Yeah.
Again, a Bengals fan. So most of my teens and late 20s were kind of miserable because all they did was lose. So you'd be miserable. And then after a while, I was like, wait, why am I taking this seriously? Because I have no control over these players. I have no control over the ownership. And it's like you said, they don't give a shit about me.
Yeah.
You could start to divest yourself of these emotions and this mental power you place upon it, which you don't realize you're putting out all this emotions, but it has all this emotion and power over you.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it was like, I don't need this. I can watch it and just enjoy any of it. And I don't care who wins or loses.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty enlightening, and having some of those conversations with him and kind of understanding where he was coming from, I started to kind of get it. You know what I mean? And that's where, like you said, that's when I kind of started to disconnect. I didn't care so much about some of the trivial stuff because it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth putting my body through the stress and the strain that I was. Being a sports fan, if you're screaming at the TV like that, you were probably hoarse the next day. You couldn't even talk.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? And then your blood pressure would go up because you were so pissed, and then you would relive it in your head, and then you'd be so furious that, you'd be sitting there and you would be getting physically angry and upset.
Yeah.
I guess at one point it just clicked. Why? Why am I doing this? Like, you start thinking about stress, and you start thinking about, shortening your life and all that other bullshit. Stress is a big thing when it comes to mind over matter. And that's why this article that you sent me when I was doing the research for this I found it incredibly interesting. Article from Wes Penry? Is it
Wes Penry? That's
name?
how I pronounce it. Wes Penry. Yeah.
It's called What Stress Does. It's video 271. So he goes into what stress does to the body, different types of stresses. And I found it absolutely fascinating. So breaks down stress into two categories. So there's immediate stress, which is basically like, okay, so your car broke down and now you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and your phone battery's at 10%. That kind of stress is good stress. It puts you to action. And then there's subtle stress, which is, watching the nightly news and they're telling you that every day or every other day you're going to drop over from COVID or something, And it's that incremental, tiny stress, the built up stress that they put onto you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, yearly basis. That's the dangerous stuff. That's the stuff that kills you. So I'm going to read a quote from the article. I think it's from the very beginning. I think it's the first 2 paragraphs, which kind of sum up the entire thing. So he goes, there are 2 main factors to take into consideration when it comes to stress. As I see it, it is the legitimate/immediate stress and the subtle stress. Immediate stress is when something happens that needs to be taken care of as soon as possible to avoid things get worse. This stress is valid. Everybody's like, don't let stress bother you. But, he's actually saying there are certain stresses that are good things. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So he says this stress is valid because it puts us into action mode and we get ready to do something about the situation. We handle it, the problem disappears, and so does the stress. This is normal and even important reaction. It is subtle stress that is so harmful. It does not come natural to humans. It is being implemented upon us and programmed into us by others, usually in an attempt to control us. Yeah, shocker. Ding, 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 ding. It has existed and been used throughout history, but it's not until we've reached this stage of a global community that it has become a major global problem. And we've been talking about that shit forever.
Yeah.
They've been weaponizing fucking shit against human beings, since one caveman had power over 3 other cavemen. So pretty amazing for him to say, it's like, you know what? Stress is good, but you just need to watch out for the bullshit stress. And I never even looked at it that way. I thought stress was stress. You know what I mean? Like, hey, my car broke down. Oh, I'm all stressed out. Like, oh, they're talking about COVID. Oh, look, I'm all fucking stressed out about it. But hey, my car breaking down and, me having to fucking find somebody to get me home is actually kind of a good thing. It puts me in the mode where, hey, I got to go into survival mode to figure out how the fuck I'm going to get the hell out of here kind of thing.
That type of good stress makes you react, and it also teaches you a lesson as well.
Correct.
If your car breaks down, you're probably going to start screaming, ranting, and raving, but that is going to drain you of your energy. I've been in that situation because I used to be like you. I was just a flamethrower. I grew up in a household with a mother who would just go nuclear. It could be 7:15 in the morning and she's just blowing through the roof. I used to be like that too. And you could feel the stress go through your body. Like I could always feel the flames just burn up through me. But then, you start to learn how to react to that. So the next time your car breaks down or something doesn't go right, you go, oh, wait, remember 5 years ago when that happened? I made the situation so much worse by getting all wound up. Yeah. Now I can react and be like, all right, well, what the fuck? Shit happened. So I'll walk. At one time, if your car broke down, we didn't have cell phones. So, yeah. But now you have a cell phone and you just, you call somebody or you call AAA, whatever you got to do. You just know how to react to it. And those type of things can help you through your life and teach you these small lessons, how to react to other things. Where you go beyond the subtle stress is that, well, how do I react to a vaccine mandate? How do I react to my business being closed down? Or how do I, I'm seeing these things on the TV all day. It's just gloom and doom. And the Taliban's going to attack America again. And we're going to have another virus mutation. It's just constant stuff. That is harder to react to and to control because you don't know the situation. Your car breaking down, the situation. You're right there. That car is yours. I have full control over it until this moment. You don't have any control over the government or anything else that's going out there in the world. You have no control over that whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to the car breaking down, I mean, like you said, it teaches you a valuable lesson for yourself and for others. Like, oh, you know what? If I would have changed the battery or done routine maintenance or had AAA, I wouldn't have had to deal with being out in the middle of winter with no car running and I have to get home. Whereas with the subtle stress, like you said, it comes out of everywhere. It's your nightly news, it's being on Twitter, on the Twitter sphere, Facebook, even having an office conversation with friends who are your Dimension A type of people who are like, oh my God, the world is just over. Like, we're going to have food shortages. We're not going to be able to eat. Our kids are going to freaking die with the whatever. The worst part about that stuff, I think, me personally, it's all incremental. That stuff is, they feed you that line of garbage from the day you're born.
Going back to the car breaking down, your car breaking down in a bad part of town or in the countryside, these are motifs that are used in popular entertainment. Those terrible 70s, 80s horror movies that I had to grow up with that my mom would watch Saturday mornings on USA Network. I mean, this is a cliche plot device for the good-looking blonde's car that takes a shit on her on a random drive out in the country at 8 p.m. for some reason. So it's kind of like the culture is creating these scenarios for you. The family went out to the grocery store and they didn't came home because they died. And now all there is the little kid left at home. You see this on the TV and then you think that happens when your parents leave. Like I had those type of thoughts when I was a kid. 80s movies and TV was terrible. Everything was just filled with violence. And I remember being a little kid and going, well, mom and dad just left. Are they going to get home? And this stuff gets buried into your brain. It gets buried into your subconscious. And that is one of those subtle stresses. We don't realize how spongy the mind and the subconscious mind is and how these thoughts, these images get in there. And then it turns into that, well, these things are down there floating subconsciously. Am I able to manifest these things into my physical world?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why your car just randomly breaks down.
Maybe.
You didn't even think about it. And then you're sitting there going, oh, wait, I saw this in a movie 15 years ago or 4 weeks ago or something like that. Oh, shit. Now my cell phone's not charged either.
So you're saying that somebody could take, if they're pre-programmed with the subtle stress, to make every stress subtle stress.
Yeah.
Are you saying they take a normal situation like your car breaking down, your phone dying, and then turning it into the doom and gloom? Because that's just how they program themselves.
Well, that's one of those conspiracy theories terms. It's called predictive programming. Like you'll see shit like movies we watched 20 years ago. Oh, now it's all happening. We're living in an Orwellian world. It's all Brave New World. Well, why is that?
Yeah. I mean, back when we were kids, Escape from New York, and there was all those dystopian type of movies where
slasher movies were really popular.
Yeah, Mad Max, all that. Yeah.
Were the slasher movies a creative or symbolic representation of what was happening in our big cities that were just overwhelmed with violence and destruction? Death Wish, that was popular.
It's funny because, oh man, that's so crazy. I was actually watching YouTube videos of Death Wish the other day. I shit you not. In the comments section, though, there were people who were like, I remember being in the theater back in the 70s when I was playing in New York, and there were people cheering.
Yeah.
Because I guess there's a part where these two muggers come up to Bronson's character on the subway.
Oh, you never watched those movies?
No, I never watched them. I just saw the clips.
They were even violent by today's standards.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty brutal stuff.
My dad loved those damn things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what was going on in New York at that time.
The guy said people were cheering because that was the real life New York. And here is a guy, I guess he lost his wife and his kid or something.
Yeah, she was raped and they murdered it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he becomes a vigilante and just starts taking everybody down. Like,
oh yeah, it's just everybody.
I mean, there were people who were like, yeah, I love how Bronson, like his character, and I forgot the character's name, but
I don't remember.
He always shoots him twice to make sure. Like, Jesus Christ, like he kills these people in cold blood.
It's been a long time since I saw him.
Yeah.
So
I think I think the video that I watched was like all of Death Wish's kills or something like that. And there's one where he blows a guy up with a soccer ball or something, like free you from your soul, and he blows him up. I was like, what the fuck?
And I can still see all the VHS covers lined up on the video store shelf.
Bronson became a big star because of those fucking movies.
Yeah, I think he did. He was kind of always a B actor, and these things blew him up.
Yeah, he became a cult hero, man, for a little. I mean, I think a bunch of New Yorkers back in the 70s were like, that's my guy. I mean, even in the comments in there, like, we need a guy like him in today's society. Like,
these type of things that we see on the news, these things get buried in our mind. And then you start to think, well, is my town like that?
Mm-hmm.
should I get home before it gets dark? Because I saw that on that movie and it was on
Yeah.
there. I see
Mhm.
ABC News is always saying the crime rate's going up, the crime rate's going up, the crime rate's going up.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times the last year and a half, 2 years of this podcast. If you just sat in front of your TV while you were forced to stay at home during the pandemic, you probably think 10 million people have died just in this
Well,
country alone.
absolutely. Again, it's all man-made fabrications by the media. You have to understand, whoever's in charge, these elite, whatever you want to call them, they just love to fuck with the populace. They love putting us in a frenzy. And they do it by giving us endless amounts of information. You remember when the information age was supposed to be like this fucking wonderful thing where everybody was going to be so much smarter and plugged in and know everything that's going on? They've literally weaponized the information age and have turned everybody into psychotic crazies because, like you said, they sit in front of TV and watch CNN all day.
Well, think about what you just said. You're plugged in. Isn't that so funny? Because that's a motif in the Matrix. You're plugged in. You got to unplug.
Yeah.
That was a thing back in the 90s already.
Oh,
Unplug the
yeah.
TV, throw it out the window. Remember those?
Yeah. Or when you went on a vacation in the Bahamas, it's like, yeah, unplug from society and just lay on the beach. That's how Corona made most of its money. I mean, that's what it is. You sit on the beach and you open your Corona and you don't care about anything but the waves crashing on the sand.
But that plug that goes into the socket in your brain, into your mind, into your subconscious is
Yeah.
just filling you with the images. And you pulled another great quote out of here where he talks about that.
Yeah. So the next quote is, in today's society, we are manipulated. Shocker. Particularly through the media, to get stressed about things we don't need to be stressed about. And eventually we stress out over the smallest things because life itself seems like a big threat.
Yeah.
When in fact, most of it is just fabricated by those who don't have our best interest in mind. It has come now to the point that many people are not even aware that they're stressed or even depressed. That's a big one. It has become the new normal, quote unquote. Then they go to the doctor because they have physical reactions to the stress, making their body sick. So the doctors give us pills to suppress the ailment that is initially caused by stress, such as high blood pressure and heart problems. In some cases, they give people tranquilizers to calm their nerves without addressing the cause of stress, which makes the underlying stress condition even more dangerous because now it's really suppressed. So we get a sick society where people are emotionally irregulated and where many people die early when they shouldn't have to. To me, that's an amazing quote because that's exactly what we were just talking about. You put yourself in such a tizzy that you literally kill yourself internally. The stresses that you put on your mind affects the body. So like your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure starts to rise, your body has to work harder. It just breaks us down.
Yeah. Just randomly has popped into my head, but going back to the sports thing, I was watching a documentary about a week ago about Argentinian football, watching a documentary on Boca Juniors versus River Plate, and it was the Copa Libertadores final from 2018. This is like the biggest game in all of Latin America. And these are the two largest clubs in Argentina. They both in Buenos Aires. They hate each other, blah, blah, blah. He was at this barber shop and he was talking to people how they knew at least two people who just died watching the first match of this 2-match series.
Wow.
They died of heart attacks.
Man, that's wild.
They couldn't handle the stress. And I mean, if you ever go online and watch Latin American football, I mean, people think Europeans are crazy and hooliganism. They got nothing. I mean, those Argentinians and Chileans and Uruguayans are going crazy. I mean, they are up there to the chain link fence with the barbed wire on the top, scaling these fences, screaming, ranting, and raving. And it goes back to, it's just a game, man. But think about if you did that to yourself weekend after weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my team's got to win. Boca has to win. They have to beat those fucking chickens in River Plate, man. They got to beat them. They got to beat. I mean, you're going nuts. And then think about the collectivist mindset that happens when you go to these stadiums.
Yeah.
and you're already wound up. And then you're taking in the energy of all humans
Yeah.
because we know that there's collectivist energy that happens to people when they go to these places, and you are of the same mindset and you're all there. Every one of you, your Boca Juniors support. We're going crazy. We've been and
Yeah. I mean, it's like those riots that happen when like an NBA team wins the championship. One guy sets something off, and all of a sudden,
boom.
the herd or the whatever
Yep.
they call it.
Herd mentality takes
Yeah, the
over.
herd mentality, the craziness, just like I never understood that. I mean, hey, we just won the world championship. Let's burn cars and businesses. I'm not trying to be the conspiracy theorist, but do you think that the CIA or some kind of psyops organization is like, hey, you guys want to have fun tonight? I'm kind of bored.
It's like we
Oh,
talked about
what
in
you
the
saying,
last
Tom?
episode. We made that joke about the guys buying toilet paper.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's almost like they're sitting around going, hey, if the Lakers win tonight, why don't we send a couple guys out there and just start something on fire and see how far it goes?
When you have humans in such a heightened state, all it takes is one little thing to happen.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a primal thing. You know what I mean? Like, do we all go back to that Unga caveman? Like, we just start fucking burning stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it becomes like a very tribal, ritualistic type of thing, doesn't it? I mean, don't they just go, yeah, let's knock down
I think it
traffic
is.
lights and shit like that? You know what I mean? I don't get it.
I think it's primal and shared human energy.
That, or it's again, we have so many stresses in our lives that
Yes.
when we finally get that euphoric kind of like, oh, there's my relief kind of thing. Well, the Lakers winning the NBA title is starting to wear off, so I got to go burn that car because that's exciting. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just from the years of social engineering that humans just start fucking burning fucking buildings down when their team wins a championship.
I mean, think about fire. Fire is one of the most primitive things humans still do. We are transfixed by fire.
Yes, we love fire.
We love fire.
Did you remember the movie? What the hell was it with Tom Hanks? Castaway. When he starts that fire, he's like, "Look at what I have created!" Like he starts freaking out because he figured out how to get fire. It's like
my grandfather loved to sit and stare at the fire. I have memories of being a little kid where, my parents and all my aunt and uncles were drinking all evening, and then it gets somber, and the fire starts crackling, and everyone's sitting there in those old 1970s lawn chairs, just stared into the fire, and the flames are lashing out.
That's definitely ingrained in human DNA because fire was one of the first things that we were able to utilize to, one, keep us safe, because fire used to scare away the animals and the predators. It would cook our food. It would keep us warm. So I think there's a lot of primal,
and it's where we would throw our sacrifices.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's me. Everybody is entranced by fire. Like from the waspiest person on the planet. Now they may have a nice fireplace in their big mansion, but they have a fire. They have a hearth. They have a flame in their building. I just love sitting by the fire and reading my book.
Yeah,
and going back to your family. Hey, we like to sit outside, watch it burn, stay nice and warm here on a nice fall night. Humans have been entranced by fire for God knows how long. That definitely is ingrained in our DNA for sure. So, but yeah, how is this about mind over matter, by the way?
Well, we let I think saying you're in a chaotic, riotous situation where, the cars are burning around you. Those flames symbolize something. I mean, they talk about the twin flames inside of humans. Humans have the twin flame of soul and spirit. So if you believe that you have that in you, these flames calling to you back to, the universe or
like
something
an outward
else.
Manifestation of the flame within your soul.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's some pretty.
And
deep
it's
shit.
like, it's pulling me in. It's pulling me in. I mean, there's nut job Satanists and occultists out there to this day that still go out in the middle of the woods and start their fires and do the fucking dance around naked and then fuck each other.
We do some weird shit around fire, don't we? I mean, most of it's normal. Hey, let's have a few drinks. Let's let's sit and read a book. Maybe some people want to sit and make love by the fire. But then, like you said, there's some people that are like, hey, we don't want to piss off the gods. Throw that baby in there. Like, fucking weird. Like, I don't know.
Then it really does become mind over matter. Do you let those old primitive instincts control you? Because a fire is all energy. It is lashing. It is heat. It is the pure manifestation of energy. And do you let that quote unquote consume you?
Yeah. It is a force to be reckoned with too, fire.
Yeah.
So, it can be an unstoppable force.
The mind over matter, fire always wins.
This is true. Fire always wins. But see, I think people's fascination with fire is the fact that they want to try and control it as well.
Mm,
When caveman first saw it, like lightning probably hit a tree and started a fire.
yeah.
And then he was like, oh, wait a minute. If I take this dead squirrel and I put it over that squirrel's yummy. Now, how do I redo that without burning half the forest down? So there could be that too, where you want to control. Think about the mindset of those fucking forest fires in California. Like they're like, well, in order to fight the fire, we need to start a fire, or we can control the flame or the burn. It's like, no, you can't. It's a forest fire. You just got to let it go through its fucking cycle. Like, who the hell are we to think, oh, we're going to stop this thing? No, we're not.
And think about that as we go back to mind over matter and those subtle stresses as Penray talks about. So you're sitting there in front of your TV watching ABC, and that screen is nothing but flames. The flames are coming for you. The flames are coming towards your house.
Yes.
You better evacuate. Do you want to die? Do you want to melt? Burning up is a horrible way to die. And don't forget, your dog. Do you want Fifi and Fufu to die in the flames?
Fifi and Fufu, those are the gayest dog names I've ever heard in my life.
For years, it's always that couple holding their kids and the dog's there. And we had to live in our car for the flames destroyed everything.
Yeah. I think more now in society because, all of us are kind of, let's be honest. In society we live in now, the majority of us are bubbled, right? Most of us live in our own little hemisphere or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So when we deal with these stressors, like whereas before, like, okay, maybe if you watched the nightly news, but then you went to the local bar and you talked to like guys like us, we'd be like, that's all bullshit. Like, you don't need to worry about it. And maybe you went home and you're like, hey, those guys were right. Maybe I need to stop watching fucking Tom Brokaw at night and tell them to fuck off. Now, when they're at home and they're watching the news and they're sitting there and they're letting their stress level get higher and higher as they quietly watch the world crumble in front of them, and that they can't go outside, they don't have any way to outwardly manifest that stress. So they can't find ways to get rid of it. Worse yet, then they're like, well, I'll just go to Facebook or something, talk with my friends. But then that's all doom and gloom because, you got people fighting each other because of mask, not mask, or vax, not vax. And it's all sorts of different information. Like on TV, it's like you can't get on a plane, you can't go to a store, you're not going to be able to buy fucking Fruit Loops tomorrow because it's all going to go short.
But look at the riots we had.
Yeah.
People were pent up for months. They didn't have jobs. They were told they were non-essential. And then some poor, strange bastard dies from a cop and it's all over everyone's phone.
Yeah.
And then boom.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really hard now not to say that this is all, one big fucking elaborate scheme or script or whatever you want to call it. And that's why more than anything, like in this day and age, something like mind over matter, what we're talking about now is so important to everyone. Like we all have to find our Zen somehow. Like we have to gravitate back to a state of mind where, not that we're being selfish, but you have to kind of become self-aware. You have to become sort of self-important in a way. You have to fix your life and yourself, and you need to stop letting these fucking things ruin your life or change your perspective on your neighborhood or your family or your friends or whoever. I have friends that won't see other friends or other family members because of this whole fucking scamdemic thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you're not vaccinated? No, I'm not. I just don't trust the information. And I had the illness and I got over it. So I think I'm pretty good according to what I've read. Well, then we just can't be friends. You know what I mean? Like people are drawing some serious lines because they're letting these outside forces just dictate everything that's going on. It's like everybody needs to take an objective view and stop letting these stupid little stresses in your life put you in a frenzy. You've seen where some of these people, like, the crazy moms who are like, my son needs to wear a mask all the time. Like, no matter what he does, even when he's in the house, in his own home, he has to wear a mask because he could get COVID. Somebody can get COVID.
People don't realize how much power they have.
Yes.
And they're being stripped of power and they're being stripped of their autonomy. One, in some ways, it's physical and it's mental. And when you give up your mind to these stresses, to these things, you will never recover because it's like you said, it's incremental. We know everything on this planet is incremental. We just had to celebrate 9/11. Well, if you go back those 20 years and look at all the shit that has happened incrementally,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty fucking astounding that we haven't killed ourselves.
Yeah, or we haven't gotten into some sort of national calamity because of the division that they have created. It just ratchets up every year. So, and that's why, for me personally, and what Wes talks about in the article, when he points out about we need to become more analytical, we need to assess. We need to become more aware of what is being put in front of us and whether it's legitimate or not. And is it something that is in my control? And should I even be stressed out about it? He goes on to say, you have to kind of retrain yourself. And it could take up to a month. He says like 20 to 30 days it can. But like he almost guarantees, like if you could put yourself in a point where you can literally see the different stressors or the different things in your life that bring you whatever, they bring you a little bit of stress, they piss you off. Bottom line, it's all stress. So if you can say, you know what, this shit is legit. I really need to do something about this. Like, for instance, my car doesn't start every other day. Get a new battery. Or, the Taliban has Black Hawk helicopters now and uniforms. And what's our president going to do? See, these are things that are all out of your control. There's nothing you could do about it. I call it bullshit stress. We need to eliminate that shit from our lives. We'll be so much better for it. And he says the same thing.
The one thing that he talks about, and I read his books and I get his emails and don't see it in your outline, where he actually says, if you're sitting there and something is on the news and it's disturbing you, it's bringing you stress, simply say, that's not happening in my life. That's happening in someone else's life.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to what he teaches and what we talked about in the What's Your Dimension episode. A lot of that episode predicated on his ideas and the stuff I've been learning over the last few years is he's trying to get people in a way to, you have control over your mind, and putting good things in your mind also puts good things out into the world. So if you just see nothing but gloom and doom over there, just go, that's not happening in my life. That's happening in their life. And I send them love and I go about my own life. I do that. So when there's shit that gets me wound up, I'll just be like, you know what? That's not my life. I'm just doing my own thing.
Yep. There are people out there that want to vilify you for that because they're like, you don't care about the starving children in Africa.
That's actually one of the examples he makes in one of his books. That's something we've grown up with. I mean, it's
that goes back to the old Sally Struthers
oh my God.
infomercials from back in the day, remember?
And it's all propaganda.
Yeah.
It's all propaganda because when you really sit down, you understand why Africa is the way it is. It's because every national power on this planet has looted and plundered it and has kept it a war zone. I wish all of them well. I wish things would be different, but I can't stop the greed on this planet. And then the next thing to that is that there's people that go, well, Jake, that's not why that is. Our government, Bill Gates, and all these other people are just philanthropic. They're trying to help those warlords stop killing their own people. But why are we supplying the warlords with the guns? Jake, we're trying to make the world a better place. Okay, like we were trying to spread democracy in Afghanistan. Yes, because America was attacked on 9/11. Was it because, we've been in the Middle East blowing up shit and then gun running and Jake, we were trying to help the people of the Middle East. This is now, you're the crazy one. You're the crazy one.
Yeah.
Jake, you don't believe that 10 million people have died in America of COVID?
Yeah.
No, because right here's the numbers. Jake, all I care about is the people who've died. How dare you see this as black and white and statistical?
Yeah. You only see 10,000 deaths, but you don't factor in the families and the children and the relatives and the loved ones. And that's, it's all one big fucking mind fuck.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
seriously.
Yeah. And those people are trying to bury you under their own projecting. They're projecting upon you the world and the emotions that they feel and that they are trying to control. And if you don't agree to their premise, how dare you?
Yeah.
This is why we did the whole dimension episode, because this is where it's going.
We have our own realities, like you said, but then there's also the world that they want you to see. When they create that kind of a blur and that state of confusion when people are like, well, I don't know what to think or I don't know what to do. This is how they fuck with people. And that he calls it the problem reaction solution formula. And basically, the same people that are causing us distress and the problems and the issues are exactly the same people that come back and go, we have a fix.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is follow these steps. And here's the fix. COVID is a perfect example. There's this illness that we don't know about, so we have to lock down for 2 weeks to stop the spread or the flatten the curve and all this other shit. Then they're like, oh no, you can't go to work anymore. Oh, you're not essential. You can't do this. You can't do that. So all these problems they create, because now in reaction to this unknown virus that everyone doesn't know what's going to do, now you've shut down an economy. You've taken people out of work. You've isolated people. You have put people in situations, some of them who maybe are stressed already. Now they're getting suicidal. They don't have any interaction with people. They don't want to go out. They're too afraid to do anything. So they're killing themselves and doing all this other shit. But hey, now we have a solution. All you have to do is put a mask on and you can go back outside. All you have to do is get a vaccine and then you can go to the movie theater or the ball game again. The same people that fucked you around are sitting here telling you this is what you need to do. And by doing so, you just have to give up 2 or 3 more things, right? I mean, you just have to tell us what your personal health profile is. You just have to tell us this or that or the other thing, or give up a certain right or a certain liberty or a certain privilege. It's like, it's insane.
And after a while, the stress obliterates both mind and matter.
Yes.
So you see or experience nothing anymore to a certain extent. You are totally blinded by cognitive dissonance or fear. You have no control over yourself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're always over there with the treat in their hand, and we're the puppy that comes running up to the treat. And instead of giving us a treat, they put a fucking bullet in our heads.
Yeah, exactly. Or if they want to fuck with you, they'll give you a treat, but that thing's laced with drugs and stuff that'll make you turn you into a zombie. Because that's what they're doing. They're melting our brains to a point where we basically become almost comatose, like so disenfranchised and so disconnected that we just don't care about anything. And then it's just like, hey, so the world is blowing up, and people are just like, whatever, I don't care. I'm just going to shoot more heroin.
That's in a book. It's called Brave New World, and they feed the inhabitants a daily ration called Soma that just annihilates their brains to all reality and everything around them. And that's what I personally think the RNA vaccines are.
Well, I agree with you. I'm 100% behind you on that. Yeah, mind over matter, everyone. So you got to find that willpower to get it within your own head that you're the boss. You are the captain of your own ship, and there's lots of outside forces in this world that you can't do anything about. The starving children in Africa, the COVID pandemic, the everything. There are certain things that are just out of your control. So sitting here in your bedroom or in your little house in your living room, watching it all go by on the TV screen is not helping you and is not helping anyone else. And I'm going to be dead serious with all of you. It is killing you. It really is. It's killing you. It's turning you into a pile of mush, and you are going to either die from the stress or from being 500 pounds from sitting in your house and not doing anything. Oh, yeah.
We're at a point where there's going to be so many people that don't believe that, and they don't want to believe that, because it's like Bill Hicks said, at this point, the illusion is so real, no one will question it anymore.
Yeah, it's very true. We don't know what's real world or what's real life and what's not anymore. The alternate realities.
And so many people are like, well, why should I try to unplug at this point? I mean, why should I chase my dreams anymore? I'll just keep plugging away. And it's that incremental stress that just keeps robbing you of energy and willpower. And it just keeps on chipping away at your soul if you believe in such a thing.
So going back to the Matrix, I guess you have to decide whether you want to be Neo or whether you want to be Cypher.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that and how you deal with the everyday world. And again, I think it all depends on how you view the world. So many people just go, hey, the world is exactly what I'm supposed to be. I get on the school bus, I go to high school, I graduate college, find my significant other, get a job. And as we have seen over the last, well, in our lifetimes, that doesn't work. All of these things have just been stripped away from us. The American dream illusion that we've always talked about, that has slowly eroded. So, what do you have left after a while? All I have is my college debt and this little apartment and nothing else. And then there's the mind. There goes the mind. And eventually, there goes the matter. And eventually, you just give up because there's
Yeah.
nothing to see or want or have or want to earn or work towards anymore.
Yep. Well, now that you put us all in a depressive state, I guess I'm going to go and slit my wrist now, right?
You said that in the last episode you were going to go kill yourself
Yeah,
too.
we should just end every episode like that. All right. And with that incredible disappointment, I would think this episode is over.